What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to Fantasy Slam NBA DFS live stream. John Impemba here with James Grande to preview tonight's four-game NBA main slate. James, we had a 9-gamer yesterday. It's been a pretty good week for slate sizes, but we do have a little guy here, which is typical for Thursdays. You know, you have the nationally televised games over on TNT. They sort of spread it out. We got 4 games tonight. Not too bad. Sean Mitchell on the playbook. Gonna get that out to you shortly when we can get that posted. But for now, listen to James and we'll break down the slate for you. James, how you feeling about it?
You know, for a Thursday night slate, this is actually a monster slate. This is basically a 15-gamer. Usually we just have like a 2-gamer, maybe 3 games, but this is a very #rare live stream on Thursday. So happy to be here, though. It has been a nice week of slates, a lot of good matchups. I'm not going to lie, I do not love this slate of games. I'm completely avoiding cash. Not that you and I are big cash game players to begin with, but there are a lot of really good defensive teams on this slate. We put Charlotte in their own column, and then basically every other team is very fundamentally sound defensively. So I don't love it. I don't believe in a lot of these totals tonight that I think are a little too high, and I almost want to take the under in all of them. But it is a nice little 4-game slate, and you know it's nice to, after a 9-game, 11-gamer grind, and the night before, it is nice to have like 4, 5, even 6-game slates the following night. So.
Yeah, I hear you, and you're not wrong about going maybe the under. 2 of the games, Boston, Charlotte, that one opened at 219 down to 215. OKC, San Antonio opened at 215 down to 212. So those 2 games, people are betting the under on that. And then you have Miami actually going up 2 points against Phoenix, which we expect. Phoenix and the way they play, and then Portland Clippers in that late night hammer at 10:30. James, let's go check it out. Start off at the point guard spot here. Kemba revenge, first game back in Charlotte. Everything's sort of just adding up, I think, for a big Kemba Walker game. He is the most expensive point guard on the slate, on DraftKings at least. I'm over on FanDuel. I think, is he also the most expensive on FanDuel, or is it Lillard? It's Lillard's the number 1 over on FanDuel. So talk about Kemba, though. I mean, for me, not just because I'm a Celtics fan, but just everything that adds up in that matchup, I think he's the number 1 guy tonight.
I mean, yeah, obviously it's going to be a little different because Jaylen Brown is going to be back or expected to be back. I don't think there's officially word there. I know he went through shoot around. Right. But yeah, this is going to be Kemba's night. I think everything. But then again, we've seen a lot of emotional returns, and I think Kemba's kind of an emotional guy. He's shown to be an emotional guy, and that takes a lot out of you. Leading up to the game, and then your adrenaline rushing right off the bat. So a lot of people off to slow starts. Not to say this is going to happen. I'm just saying definitely a possibility. I definitely like the matchup better than I like Lillard's. If we were to just compare the top 2, Sean and I talked about it on the podcast last night. There's a short list of guys that I don't play players against, and Damian Lillard's going to draw a Patrick Beverley defense. So and then if he's rolling and Patrick Beverley can't do anything, who's to say the Clippers don't put a rested Kawhi on him also? So, I mean, there's 2 really tough matchups there for Lillard. If you want to spend up at point guard, which I think you can tonight on both sites, I think it's a viable way to go, especially on FanDuel where you have to play 2 point guards. Kemba's definitely the guy over Lillard at that top tier.
Yeah, I agree with you for sure. I think it makes a lot of sense to go in that direction. And as you mentioned, just the matchup, that Lillard's getting Pat Bev. That's just what's going to happen, as you said. Yep. So easy spot from there. But then again, it's kind of a big jump down. You do have Terry Rozier also going up against Boston. Chris Paul, who's largely disappointed. He started to pick it up of late. So maybe he's finally getting into a groove. Going up against San Antonio, probably DeJounte Murray going to cover him for a little bit. How are you feeling about the rest of this tier?
So I was actually really surprised to see that the Spurs struggle against point guards, according to DVP. So, maybe we do see kind of an under-the-radar Chris Paul And I think I don't love that how big DeJounte Murray is and he can present problems defensively, but he's just not on the floor long enough for him to make like a real defensive dent. I mean, he's playing 24 minutes. If OKC finds a way to stagger Chris Paul, he could just avoid that matchup completely and get guys like Patty Mills or Bryn Forbes. And I think that's an exploitable matchup. Plus, we still haven't seen a double-double out of Chris Paul, which is coming. And at this price tag, I think tonight, like if there was a slate to take advantage of it, I think tonight would be the slate. I mean, low game total, slow-paced teams. I mean, what's better than a 4-game slate to take a shot in the dark on someone like Chris Paul, who's 6'5"? The minutes have been decent. Like they're not terrible. So maybe you go there. I don't think you go Rozier. I'll tell you that. I mean, the thing that you said about Marcus Smart is terrifying. Yes. He is definitely on the short list. Like he might have a short list by himself, and then there's a secondary short list with everyone else. Because if Rozier starts heating up, there is not a doubt in my mind that Brad's going to say, "Hey, Marcus, get in the game right now." Check him right now for the remainder of this game. So,
for those of you who aren't privy to it, the other day against Cleveland, Marcus Smart covered Kevin Love on 60% of the possessions or something like that, and allowed 8 total points. And then he guarded Giannis the game before. Basically, it doesn't matter, who it is. The Celtics are throwing Marcus Smart on whoever they perceive to be, the most, impressive offensive player on the other team. Devontae Graham, good luck today. You're going to probably be seeing a lot of Marcus Smart, on the floor. So the one thing that may benefit them is that Jaylen Brown's going to be back, possibly. I think
official news. So official news right now.
Yep.
Brown in, Tice in, Robert Williams in, Enes Kanter out.
Yeah. That's good for Tice. I mean, we'll talk about it when we get there. We know centers against against Hornets and thing. But so Brown in the starting lineup, I would think. I mean, last year they had Brown come off the bench, and they had Marcus Smart in the lineup, and that's kind of when things started to slowly turn around before the ship eventually sunk. With Kyrie just deteriorating everything they had to do with that Boston Celtics team. But if Smart's coming off the bench, maybe there's less minutes for him. I mean, he's still going to play 25 to 30, I would assume. But, with Brown being out, he's playing way more. So it'll be interesting to see the flow of that game for sure. What's your take on Rubio tonight?
So I love Rubio. I think there is something to be said about this game being sneaky. And Sean brought up a really good point on the podcast. These are 2 very good defensive teams to start the year, which is surprising because we're saying Phoenix is a very good defensive team. But they have a middling game total, and they're both top 10 in pace. They're the only team. This is the only game with 2 top 10 teams in pace playing against one another. Rubio's been really good with Devin Booker. The assists have been there. I mean, really across the board, the numbers have been there. And I don't hate the matchup against, the likes of Kendrick Nunn, the likes of Tyler Hero, the likes of Goran Dragic. We know Jimmy Butler is going to be guarding Devin Booker, so we don't have to necessarily worry about Rubio because Butler is guarding Booker. Sorry, maybe that does open up more offensive prowess for Rubio tonight. So I mean, I think Rubio's in a really good spot. It's a really good price tag. I think he's going to be the chalkiest of this mid-tier point guard position, and that's kind of why I said maybe you do play Chris Paul as a contrarian pivot because. No one's going to play him. No one's going to play Rozier. Everyone's going to play Ricky Rubio. But I think if you are playing cash games, you probably are playing Kemba, especially on FanDuel. You're probably playing Kemba, and you're probably playing Rubio as well.
Yeah, we finally got and it took Kawhi Leonard being out. But we finally got a big Pat Bev game. Last year towards the end of the year, he was putting up some huge fantasy numbers. We know he can give you steals and the defensive numbers here. The rebounds are always. Do you think we see him score again like he did? Tonight. I know it's a back-to-back, and you're always a little bit weary on these plays on back-to-backs, but Lillard's not really a great defender. Maybe he exerts too much energy on the defensive end to shut down Lillard. But how are you feeling about Pat Bev tonight?
I mean, you also got to consider that they scored 124 points last night, and you saw him, Harrell, and Lou Williams just absolutely go off. So Now you add in Kawhi to that equation, like, yeah, maybe. I don't hate it. I think 4.9 is a good price tag, and I think the minutes are obviously there. Like, we know Patrick Beverley is going to play big minutes. It's a small slate, right? Just he hit 3 threes and he made 5 free throws. We hadn't seen him take. He combined for 1, 2 in the every game prior to last night. He took 6 free throws combined. And last night he took 5. So, like, there are some outliers. Yep. He is a very good rebounding guard. So I'm not completely shocked by 10 rebounds. But I think the scoring is definitely an anomaly. You can do it. It's like you said, it's a smaller slate, and there are not spend down options at point guard. That's your spend down if you want to. So, I mean, it's fine. I'm just not banking on another 20 actual points from Patrick.
Yeah, my only thinking of Beverley is he's a career 37% 3-point shooter, and this year he's only shooting 20%. Last night he hit 3 of 4. So you look at some of the point totals he's had this season, and then you look at his 3-point numbers: 1 for 5, 1 for 6. That's well below what his career mark typically is. So if he hits 2 more threes, then you're looking at 12 to 15 points to go along with those other numbers. I know it's only 6 points, but 6 points is a big difference between going like 4x to 6x. So that's my only thing. I think there's some upside here for Beverley as that 3-point shot starts to drop for him. Plus, defenses focusing in a little bit more on Kawhi and Lou Williams, leaves him kind of open. So smaller slate, I agree with you. I think he's overall pretty still solid option. Where are you at shooting guard? Obviously, we have at the top, Booker, DeRozan. We had a interesting, I guess, question sort of, or just comment on it. But, DraftKings Jimmy Butler only $7,200 going up against Phoenix. While you look at FanDuel, and he's 93, and he's the most expensive. So there's like a huge price difference. And it's not just the $1,000 more that you get on FanDuel. There's like a $2,000 price difference here between the two. Does that make Butler, especially on a small slate, not a must play, but maybe a must play?
I mean, he's as close to a lock on DraftKings as it gets at 7,200. I mean, I'd rather spend that in, again, an up-tempo matchup against Phoenix than I would rather a shaky DeMar DeRozan in a low total, a Devin Booker that's going to get Jimmy Butler on the flip side and is $1,200 more when we're looking to spend on Kawhi Leonard. Let's just be honest, that's where we're looking. So yeah, I think Jimmy Butler, especially if you're playing cash, because I mean 4-game slates you can still play cash. You're playing Jimmy Butler, and I think he's perfectly fine for tournaments. I'm not playing him at 9,300 in my opinion. I think that's too steep for me, especially when you go down. We just saw Lou Williams pop, and he's going to run a lot of second unit. I still think he's very viable. CJ McCollum is not going to see Patrick Beverley defense. He's most likely going to see Lou Williams at times. So
Landry Shamet, maybe.
I mean, I think that's like a really good pivot at the position. So like, I don't think you spend 9,300 on Butler on FanDuel, but I think you lock and load 7,200 on DK.
Yeah, and you talk about, again, you're big on the theory of jump shooters on second nights of back-to-backs, and obviously I think the stats probably bore that out a little bit. You do look at Lou Williams the last time he played on a back-to-back. He went for 31, 24 actual points against Utah. The next night against San Antonio, 12 actual, 21 points. Shot just 26% from the field on the second night of a back-to-back. So, again, you look at him carrying the load, 27 shots last night. I think the Sun maybe would be an obvious play because, the high total in the game, but, those legs could be dead, at this point. So I think going McCollum potentially even on the flip side, like you said, really strong. We talked about Devontae Graham already. He's the leading scorer for Charlotte. I mean, he just went for 56 fantasy points against Indiana in that overtime game, 35 actual. But we're expecting Marcus Smart defense here, right? So maybe he's more of the contrarian play, but I don't think there's a ton of upside if that ends up being the clamps on him tonight.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go there. Whoever's scoring for Charlotte is going to see Marcus Smart. It just so if Graham starts the game hot, he's going to get Marcus Smart for the remainder. So no thanks to either of those backcourt members.
So I rode Schroeder for a little while. Did crash and burn for me against Orlando. That's the ebb and flow of Dennis Schroeder. Any interest in him here again? I mean, like I said, he comes off the bench and he shoots. If the shots fall for him, the upside there is very high. Again, smaller slate, GPP play. Do you like this matchup against San Antonio?
I don't hate it. I don't love it. I like the minutes. I like obviously the volume that he takes his shots there. I don't know if it's a coincidence though that one rebound went from 9-1 with Steven Adams back in the lineup. I don't think that's a coincidence because Steven Adams only has one game with fewer than 10 boards this year. So I don't think he's the worst play. Again, 4-game slate. Not going to tell you it's a bad GPP play for sure. Just probably going elsewhere. I'm probably just. It's just one of those situations where I'm locking in Butler, I'm locking in McCollum, and I'm moving on to my next position. That's
fair. Bryn Forbes, it feels like he's a little underpriced, just given the minutes and the production right now. Only $4,300. He's averaging 22.7 fantasy points, and there hasn't really a huge spike in his production. There's actually just one bad game, happened to be against the Clippers, but everything else from there is 21 to 26 fantasy points in that range. That's you only need 21 fantasy points for 5x tonight. So Forbes, I think, is a good value play. And then someone that was in the Value Vault article, he's a shooting guard. Is he a shooting guard on FanDuel as well? Let me check here. He is a shooting guard on FanDuel as well. Hamidou Diallo. What are your thoughts on him? You look at his box score. Again, not a guy, and this is something that I preach a lot with guys like OG and everything. He's a player that gives you all of the other numbers, and if the scoring comes at all, then he shoots you through the moon. Do you have any interest on him tonight?
The production is undeniable. I think there is a path for him tonight to possibly play 30 minutes. I think it's okay. I don't have a strong will to play it. I think another player on his price tag that I would probably lean is Rodney Hood at $3,800.
Also in the Value Vault article today by Adam Ronis. So both of those guys made it in.
Hood is playing 30. The minutes are more sustainable. Have been more sustainable for Hood. He shot 1 for 8 from the floor against Golden State, and he still played 36 minutes. So Portland is obviously valuing Hood quite a bit recently. They're kind of just playing 4-guard lineups, especially without Zach Collins. They're just playing just very small, and Hood's been a beneficiary of it. If it's lightning in a bottle with Hood. He makes shots and he'll crush value, and if he doesn't, he really doesn't do much else. So
all right, let's go on over to small forward unless there's anybody else that are on your radar here.
Nope.
No Duncan Robinson played tonight for you?
That is a Sean Mitchell special that I will not be testing the waters.
Not testing the waters there?
No.
All right, Kawhi Leonard, $9,600 on DraftKings, lock and load.
Lock and load.
Again, it feels weird being interested in Kawhi Leonard, this year versus years past. We saw those price tags and we're like, well, let somebody else pay that. But it's a smaller slate, and he's actually giving you the production you need at that price tag. So Kawhi, really great spot here against Portland. Even on DraftKings, over on FanDuel rather, where he's priced up a little bit more. I think he's over 10K on FanDuel. He is 10.8. So huge jump there. But again, he's a guy that's worth it for sure. Below them, again, if you're looking at FanDuel, drops right down to Gordon Hayward coming off that huge game against Cleveland. The return of Jaylen Brown, though, it can be limiting. He's another just high usage play that, needs his shots as well. Maybe Brown will be limited in his first game back. I'm not sure if you heard what happened to Jaylen Brown. It was an illness, but it was an illness caused by an abscess that he had in his leg, and he had the abscess drained, and then it got infected, and then it caused him a fever, and he had to go to the hospital 5 times to get this abscess re-drained. So I don't know what the heck happened to Jaylen Brown, but he's supposedly back. Maybe he'll be limited. What do you think about Gordon here?
I think that he's fine. I don't have the strong will to play. I don't have the strong will to play him when we did when Brown is out, because Brown not that he dominates the ball, but he can be a ball dominant player.
He'll take 15 plus shots probably,
right. And I mean, and that takes away from a lot of Gordon Hayward and a lot of everyone around him. So I mean, I think Hayward's fine. 7,300 is a little steep. If he was in the 6K, like high sixes, I probably would have more in a more higher inkling to play him. But I mean, he's fine if you want to roster him. But like 7,200, I could play Jimmy Butler in a higher tempo in a high tempo game. So I would probably go there instead.
Okay, yeah, totally understandable. Oubre, Gallinari, it really dies off here after that.
Yeah,
the next two guys. Rudy Gay was in the Value Vault article. I've been playing Rudy Gay. I mean, I think he's just solid, right? I mean, you always have to deal with what Popovich is going to do on that night, but his minutes largely 25, 26, 27. There's a random game here or there, but, he's a veteran that gets his rebounds, gets his points, and, if he gives you anything else, he's going to give you 20 to 30 fantasy points. So, Rudy Gay can fit in there. You mentioned Rodney Hood as a shooting guard. He's a small forward on FanDuel, so again, some value for him there. But after that, again, it just dies. There's nothing here, in my opinion. Anybody else, or at least on FanDuel, that jumps out to you?
No, I'd probably go down to Rudy Gay, and I don't think you really need to go much further. Maybe if Justice Winslow sits, your boy Derek Jones Jr., who is also questionable, but he's actually probable. So maybe there if Winslow sits.
Yeah, he played 16 minutes the other day. I mean, I think if Winslow sits, you'd probably slide. Would you slide Butler to small forward then, and maybe play any of the other guards there,
or Dragic? Yeah,
I mean,
like if you want to talk narrative street, this is a revenge game for Dragic going back to Phoenix. So
it's true. They did trade him and his brother. Everybody forgets Zoran Dragic. Nobody remembers him. I remember him.
Nobody remembers him for a reason, John. There's a reason everyone remembers Goran and not Zoran.
Yeah, I remember Zoran. Let's go to power forward, where FanDuel just continues to toy with us and lists Bam as a power forward there.
This is the worst position by a million miles, by the way.
It is. I will agree with you, especially on FanDuel. I mean, DraftKings, at least you can toy a little bit with it. Right. You have Bam, 8,400, Tatum, 8,000, Aldridge, 8,000, all fine. PJ Washington against Boston, not really, the greatest. Again, they have strong defenders, gets Tatum. Tice is appealing at 4,900 at least, starting at center against Zeller. He did play 30 minutes the other day against Cleveland, played 26, 27. So he's the established center on this team. So I think you actually lock in Tice at $4,900. Given the matchup, knowing who he's up against, stretches the floor a little bit. And we talk about rebounding and how bad Charlotte is against, rebounding 9, 8, 9 the last 3 games. So the minutes have been there. The rebounds have been there. I think he's going to be one of the highest on plays of the slate at the price. So, are you going Bam and Tice? Do you have any interest in the other guys at the top here?
It's kind of crazy to me that FanDuel only has Tice at 4.9, considering they hone in on blocks and steals, and Tice is averaging 2.5 blocks a game, and he's 56.
He's at 9 over the last 2 games,
and he's 5,600 on DraftKings, but you don't get the same bonus you do on FanDuel. So that's pretty much a free square. You just lock in Daniel Tice over on FanDuel. I think it's more of a question on DK at 5,600. I still think it's a really good play, but I still think 5,600 for Daniel Tice is very unsettling. It's kind of like when we were talking about Marcus Smart at 5,700. I mean, we're just kind of but no.
As we talk about all the time, it gets rid of the upside.
It does get rid of the upside completely.
If he goes for 30, that's 6x, but it's way better for him to go for 30 at 45 than it is for him at 55. So I'm completely with you on that. So how do you feel about guys like Bam, Tatum, and Aldridge? Do you have a preference of the 3?
I don't love Bam against Aaron Baines, even though Baines has been exploitable this year, but he's just kind of like a nuisance. He's just someone you don't want to bang with in the post. Like
Right.
that's going to be annoying.
He's a
Going to
good
wake
defender.
up.
He's a big body, for
Right.
sure.
I think Tatum is fine. I kind of have the same feeling on Tatum as I do Hayward with Jaylen Brown back. But Tatum is very good. He's been very good peripherally this year. So, I mean, I don't hate that. I just don't love this position. I mean, you could play Montrezl Harrell. I think at 6'2" is too cheap because, I mean,
that's where the DraftKings flexibility helps you.
Right, right. I mean, the good thing is, like, Harrell's not a jump shooter, so I'm not worried about his legs as much as I am Lou Williams pulling from deep. I really hate this position. I think a lot of my lineups are going to include Dario Saric, who is in a pace-up spot. Miami has been exploitable against power forwards. They're allowing 47.6 fantasy points to the power forward position this year per game. League average 43.9. So they're like 4 points above league average. And that's according to DVP. So I think Saric is kind of a sneaky play. We've seen a big upside game out of him, too, against Golden State, which we consider to be an up-tempo game, exactly what this is. I don't hate Saric in this atmosphere. Sean brought up Kelly Olynyk. I don't also hate that. I think there's a path for Kelly Olynyk if Justice Winslow sits. Another player that's super unsettling, but 4,200, 31 fantasy points his last game. He's actually gone 21, 24, 31 his last 3 games. The 24 minutes last game against Denver, yes, because of a blowout, but also because Winslow was not there. So I think there's a path to Olynyk. I think this is a position you kind of get crazy in. Like Trey Lyles, too. I mean, we've touted Trey Lyles we're wondering why Trey Lyles couldn't get more than 20 minutes a game for 3 years. 2 of his last 3, and we know he starts, but 2 of his last 3, he's gone for 12 and 14 rebounds. So, I mean, I think this is a position, at least maybe on DK, because FanDuel, like you said, you can just lock and load Tice over there for at least one of the spots, and then do something crazy with the other one. But, like, take a shot at this position because it's so bad. That's my advice at power forward.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is pretty it's pretty brutal. No arguments there. Let's jump on over to the center spot. Whiteside against the Clippers. Returned against Golden State. Played 28 minutes, 22, 11, and 2 blocks. The 28 minutes is certainly nice to see. Most he's played all year. Gets the Clippers on that back-to-back. We know we love attacking the Clippers at center position because of how undersized they might be. I think Whiteside, obviously at the top on FanDuel, again, on DraftKings, you can play a Harrell and all that. It's fine. Below them, Harrell, Baines, and Zeller. Adams, what's your take on them?
So Whiteside's definitely the clear-cut number 1. $6,400 on DraftKings is a steal against this diminutive front court of the Clippers. I think Baines is a good play. He's been really good. I really don't have interest in Zeller. The minutes are trending in the wrong direction for no reason other than the Hornets just don't want to play him. I think Steven Adams is sneaky here against LaMarcus Aldridge defense because 25 minutes, I mentioned that the rebounds have been great for Adams this year, and I think that has a lot to do with the absence of Russell Westbrook. I think Russell Westbrook not being there has opened up a ton of work for Adams on the block. I mean, 9 or more rebounds in every game he's played this year.
Right.
And we know Steven Adams for damn sure is better than a 7-point-per-game score. That's what he's averaging, 7. He's a guy who's been at 12, 13, 14 for the last 3 years. $5,400. The minutes are obviously not, like, ideal, but I think there's a path to, like, 35 to 40 fantasy points here, and I don't think anyone's going to play him. So I really like Steven Adams tonight. I'm probably just going to rotate him and Whiteside, and Baines, not be, like, super contrarian there because I'm going to be super contrarian at power forward. Yeah,
that's fine. I definitely like that. James, 6:30. Again, we have a late lineup block today, 8 o'clock. So you still have an hour and a half to go ahead and fiddle with your lineups and let more injury news break. The positive thing is we'll know by 7:30, if anybody else is going to be ruled in or out for this Boston-Charlotte game, and hopefully we'll get some more status updates here. But any final thoughts on the slate?
No, not really. Just look out for Sean's playbook and optimal lineups coming out very shortly.
Yep, for sure. John Pemba here for James Grande. We'll be back tomorrow. Big slate again, so we'll talk to you then.
Later, guys.